goes into our next story about Comcast, not from the theme park level, but actually from their linear TV business, and why maybe they made these changes. Maybe it's to perhaps invest more resources into theme parks going forward. It's an interesting idea, but well, we got to start us off here with the Hollywood Reporter.
I think I get the long-term prediction prize on this stuff. I really do.
Yes, you do.
I've been saying this for a year and a half now, that we're going to make all of that stuff go away.
So the Hollywood Reporter back in November 6th, so this is right after election night, Nielsen ratings came out. And apparently for all the networks, not just those associated with Comcast, but Fox and CNN and everyone else, they have just dropped very, very sharply from their 2020 numbers. You can see they were 56.92 million viewers. They went to 42.29. Now, we noted at the time that, well, where did they go? And we thought that, yeah, they've been going to online sources. Sure enough, that's exactly where they went. A reporter here, where did election night TV viewers disappear to? New data suggests that they flocked to YouTube. Apparently, YouTube is suggesting that they had more than 45 million people in the U.S. watch election-related content on Tuesday, November 5th. That's absolutely massive right there. And so, how did Comcast respond? Well, they did a survey, and apparently 1 in 5 Americans get their news from social media influencers. This published November 18th. And then looking at all of this,
we just can't compete with that Park Place. We just can't keep up.
Absolutely. So they're cutting bait right here. Comcast to spin off cable networks as subscribers flee the bundle. This published Tuesday, November 19th. So you can see just how fast these things have materialized right here. Lillian Rizzo, but you know the name right there, Alex Sherman. Comcast is moving forward with the spinoff of its cable networks, which include CNBC, MSNBC, and E! The spinoff is expected to take place about a year. According to a company memo, Bravo is not part of the spinoff. Comcast President Mike Cavanaugh said during the company's quarterly earnings call in October that it was considering spinning off its cable networks. It's a really, really big story. Lou accurately predicted right here. These linear broadcast networks, well, they're not necessarily as valuable as they once were.
Not at all. And the reason is not that, they're left and Fox is right and all of that basic political, I'm team A and I'm team B competition. The reason, as you and I were watching earlier today, a clip of Bill O'Reilly, he said, because they're hateful, because they're so nasty and so angry and so willing to go to the lowest first. And people don't want that in their living room. They just don't. Even if they believe in the cause, they don't want that because they don't want to be identified with people like that.
Agreed. And it's also the level of entitlement too. Because like when you watch, smaller, like small in quotation marks, it depends. But when you watch, creators on like the social platforms, the video sharing platforms and such, they always take time, to be like, hey, thank you so much for helping support the channel. It means a lot. Here, let me do some stuff to give back, super chats, all that. Mind you, the news stations these days just have such a sense of we're right and we're going to tell you how to think. And I think that's just really bit their viewership. They don't feel like a friend to them. They feel like they're being talked down to and preached at every Sunday or Monday or Tuesday, whatever day.
I think that's part of it.
You don't have to be right or left to hate Karens. And when your media is full of Karens scolding you and telling you you're not worthy. I mean, I saw some headline. I love a site called Real Clear Politics, because they list headline stories from all over the political spectrum. Yeah, RCP. When I see one that says, Democrat pundits and sources blame voters for election, and I'm going, duh. Who are they supposed to blame? Like themselves because the voters didn't like them? I mean, guys, this idea that the audience is always right as long as they like me, and if they don't, they should burn in hell, is kind of a take it or leave it proposition,
Now, what's really interesting here, because I think both of you guys are exactly correct. I think there's more going on here than just a political divide. Obviously, people are moving away from traditional media outlets and moving on to transformative content like what you're seeing right now. YouTube, awesome stuff right there. That Park Place, everybody, everywhere else, independent media is absolutely growing. But I do think there's a little politics in there, as ABC News actually brought up. What will happen to CNBC and MSNBC when they no longer have a corporate connection to NBC News?
Yeah, that was their justification for being all opinion all the time was, well, but we've got the news from NBC.
Right.
What's interesting to me is how they're doing this also. If you currently own a share of Comcast, you're going to get exactly the same number of shares in this new thing that's going to spin this content off.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you're going to get your compensation.
Ah, I see. That's interesting.
That company, that spin-off company, which they're literally for the time being called spin-off or something like that, well, what'll happen to that stock compared to Comcast? That'll be the question. And the answer is, if all those people or half of them hate that content as much as they're saying they do, and they sell that stock, A, who's buying it? B, what's it worth? And let the market prevail,
I do agree. And I guess these entities will have to survive without those Comcast checks there. ABC News, MSNBC's staff and studios are based in the same Rockefeller Center offices as NBC News, and it's unclear on Wednesday whether they will remain or move elsewhere. Lazarus told MSNBC.
Yeah, because CNBC is in New Jersey across the way, has been since the beginning.
But NBC, Comcast owns those buildings, so it's like...
right. Well, so what, and when their contracts run out with NBC, but they've been doing mostly work for MSNBC, will they say to these people, great, go to MSNBC and ask them for a deal because we don't own that anymore and we're not interested. Thanks a lot. There was a lot of talk with this recent incident on The View, and still exists, that ABC might do the same thing with things like The View and spin off a small network and conveniently put all of these anchors that were fixing the debates and all the other people that were seen to be malefactors in the same boat and let them swim if they can. So
that's the interesting thing. We're gonna have to see what actually happens to those entities. I know Bob Iger was talking about possibly spinning off ABC as one of the first CNBC sit downs that he did when he came back. So it's going to be really interesting to see what happens to these.
And he's a bean spiller, he can't help himself.
I can't help himself.
He did that and almost immediately turned it around. Well, I didn't mean tomorrow or the next day or the day after that. But what he meant was we've looked inside and seen what the numbers are, and it's not helping. It's only hurting. And the reason I originally said this was because way back at the dawn of political time, i.e. when the so-called Don't Say Gay bill, which is not what it was, started the controversy going in Florida. Remember, they said they were going to stay out of it. And then they said, but our cast members insisted that we needed to take a stand. That's what Chapek said. He got talked out of staying neutral. Well, their cast members are the same people who are the cast members at MSNBC and CNBC. In other words, at the parks as employees, they're the same demographic age and political persuasion. They're the same people. And what Comcast told them was, go run the rides, would you? That's not your job. Bribe me with that you're an unhappy person. We got lots of people to take your job. If you don't like it here, go away. But we're not in that business. We're in the business of making everybody like us, not of making half the people like us, half the people hate us, and the other half confused on a given day. So Bill O'Reilly in this clip that we saw, that I don't know if you want to put a link in the chat or not, but he said they don't want to own all that anger and hate. They just don't at Comcast. Why? Because they're about joy. They're about pay your cable bill and get your ISP through us. Yeah, sure. But also come on down to Orlando or Las Vegas or Frisco, Texas or LA or China, and we'll be there to entertain you. Now, if this makes people unhappy, then they can go to Disney where they'll find what?
Right.
So
I'll put it in the chat right there because I don't know if we can get away with actually playing it. But if
No, I don't think. I think we should just put the clip and let people find it if they'd like to.
It's in the chat right now.
If you go to look at that, watch the whole thing, because at the beginning, Bill's having his usual playtime with Chris Cuomo and the other guy, and sort of holding back what he's really going to say until it gets a little deeper. But once it does, he pulls no punches. So
he doesn't.
And he's right. He's just plain right in this case. He's not always right, but in this case, this is a guy who's been in the media 50 years. He kind of knows how the business side works, not just the show side. So
I want to read this one little excerpt right here because I think it's really fascinating. MSNBC's relationship with NBC News has caused some awkwardness, particularly as the network has become known for its stable of liberal commentators while still attached to a news division that stresses impartiality. For much of MSNBC's broadcasting day, NBC News journalists like Katie Tour, Jose Diaz-Balart, and Chris Jansing, and a host of reporters appear on the network. It's unclear whether arrangements could be made for that cross-pollination to continue. Well, where will Steve Kornacki land, for example, or if MSNBC will bear the expense of building out its own news-gathering operation or lean more heavily into commentary. It's a nervous time for MSNBC for multiple reasons. The network has seen a dramatic drop in viewership since Donald Trump's election victory, although it is common that news networks that appeal primarily to one side of the political divide lose viewers when their candidates are defeated. It's a lot, though. MSNBC viewership dropped by half.
It's not necessarily rejecting them because they didn't somehow drag Kamala kicking and screaming over the finish line. Mm-hmm. It's saying we were interested in this issue as long as we had a dog in the race. Now we don't for a while. We're not as interested. We're going to go back to watching recipes and travel agents and stuff.
Right.
It shows how dangerous it is to link your entertainment to a political figure of any aisle, because the moment they either A, lose, or B, like a lot of politicians, do something stupid, your ratings are going to completely tank. And where do you go from there? Your audience isn't going to believe you anymore. It's
especially
kind of
when it hurts your own credibility, like it did with the debate fixer. Exactly. And the what was it on 60 Minutes? The editing of answers and replacing of answers to different questions.
Right.
Nobody likes to be lied to. Nobody likes to be cheated. I don't care what their politics. It's just not, we are a fair play country in spite of what has happened over the years.
That was a highlight from our live stream on That Park Place Podcasts online, where the full stream can be found at the link in the description. But what about you? What were your thoughts on this particular story? Please let us know in the comments below. Like this video if you did like this video. Share us out as it helps us out tremendously against the YouTube algorithm. And thank you so much for watching. T3BO. Please comment, like, and share this video. And don't forget to subscribe to That Park Place Podcasts online, your source for exclusive content and highlights from WDW Pro, The Pro Show, and That Park Place for all the news that should be fun.